Hello everyone, welcome back to Up Late with Ivy. I am your host Ivy Rush and I have got a good one for you tonight. It is actually part of a series and I'm hoping to be able to cover the rest of the series. I believe right now it's at 5 parts, but it could always continue. I don't know the author's plan. But I'm really hoping I get to cover more of it because the first part, which I'm reading to you tonight, has me hooked. So let's go toe-to-toe with our Sunday Scaries and jump right in. The Silence Index, Part 1 by Suspicious Facts 5106. The world is falling silent day by day. We don't know why, and we don't know how. What we do know is this. It's not the silence that's killing us. It's what comes with it. My name is Samuel Rook, and I'm a first responder in the Department of Silence Anomaly Tracking. When an area falls silent, what we call silent zones, we enter first. The level of silence and danger corresponds with a ranking system we have devised. We call it the Silence Index. Our job is to assess threats, clear out hostiles, and save anyone still alive. To any DSAT member reading, this take note. Our index is failing. The day started out normal enough. I live in an apartment inside a reclaimed zone, a level 1. Sounds are muffled, but not completely gone. You never realize how much of your life is wrapped up in sound until it's gone. The ring of your alarm, the beeps of the microwave, the chirping of birds, not to mention being able to talk with other people. But I'd grown used to it. Everyone who lived in the zones did. I woke up a bit later than usual, which was odd for me, and quickly checked my pager for any reports. Seeing nothing, I fastened my haptic band, grabbed my bag, and headed over to the DSAT command center, set up just outside the zone. I was hoping I had received clearance to join an investigation team heading into a sealed-off level 3, but I knew not to expect too much. I'd made myself too essential to the first response unit, so there's no way they'd let me go. It was probably for the best, since it would take me too far from my sister. She was still having trouble fitting in after our incident all those years ago. I slipped my plugs in before exiting the zone. Keeps your ears from popping. My pager buzzed before I could even take them out. The long 3-second buzz meant a zone had appeared, and I needed to report immediately. I was already on my way, but I started to walk faster. Pulling out my earplugs outside the zone was like taking a breath of fresh air. Wind rushed past my ears, the sound of the trees swaying along the city roads settling into my chest. The tall buildings cast long shadows across the cracked pavement. Many people were out and about, setting up shelters and handing out rations. My city may be broken, but the silence hasn't killed us yet. "There he is," Dez called out from inside the large tent. Derek Morgan, Dez to most, is big, easygoing, and dependable. We've been paired together since we enlisted. "You're late," came a flatter voice. Harper, my other squad mate, sat with her legs crossed next to the map of the city set on the folding table. She had joined Dez and I after, well, it's best I don't say why. "Where's Rennick?" I asked, dropping my bag on the ground and grabbing a combat vest off the rack. "He got pulled off site. He said he'll reach us on comms later," Harper replied. Gave me the coordinates. Looks like an elementary school got caught up this time. Before I could say anything, Des clapped me on the back. "Don't worry, Sam. It hasn't been used in years. Didn't seem like anyone was around when the zone appeared." I finished strapping my vest and turned towards my team, feeling a little calmer. "So we're getting comms this time. Think it's a level 0? Harper shook her head. "Rennick said expect a 1. The DSAT unit nearby only took some preliminary readings. Don't forget, it's our job to assess the threat." "And eliminate hostiles and secure civilians," Des chimed in. I holstered my standard issue 9mm and fastened my earpiece. It was time to explore the unending and unforgiving silence once more. We arrived on schedule, Des behind the wheel of the repurposed Jeep. It made almost no noise, dampened by the zones we passed through. But the smell of the gas still followed in our wake. We stopped outside of the triage center set up in front of the school's entrance. Fencers were in the middle of erecting a barricade around the school grounds. Entering the triage, we were greeted by a familiar face, and all three of us threw up a salute. "Lieutenant Rennick," I said. "I thought you were preoccupied." "Hands down," he replied. "You know I don't hang around the briefings very long. You can only do so much work sitting around and talking." Lieutenant Hal Rennick, our commanding officer, ran things from the sidelines. He didn't go into the field himself anymore. He'd been at this for long enough to earn that. If we were only dealing with a level 1, we would be able to use our comms to stay in contact. "What's the situation so far?" I asked. "No casualties. There were a few teens messing around nearby when the sirens went off, but they made it out before the zone arrived. The infrastructure was already shaky, probably worse after the vibrations. Watch your step in there." "Any entities detected?" Harper asked. Lieutenant Rennick grunted. 2, maybe 3. The survey team clocked movement around the 3rd floor before their drones went out. If you spot them, bring them back. Otherwise, you know what to do. I've done this several times already, but you can never be fully prepared for what you may face in a silent zone. At least it was only a level 1. The entities weren't smart enough to be lethal in a level 1. Lieutenant Rennick pulled me aside while Harper started to make the final preparations. "Listen, Sam. I don't want you running off on your own on this one. Something feels off here." I waited for him to continue, trying to keep the unease from settling in. "In that briefing earlier, apparently there were some new anomalies being reported. Zones aren't fitting into our index like they normally do. Our drones shouldn't be malfunctioning in a level 1. Just keep your head on a swivel today." "Yes, sir," I responded before turning away. I had to so he wouldn't pick up the worry growing on my face. Harper followed as I pulled Des away from the female seismologist, and the three of us continued to the entry point. We stared at the hollow building. Whatever waited for us inside wasn't going to let us pass clean through. We secured our cancelers over our ears, making sure not to knock out the earpiece. I gave the others a nod, and we crossed the threshold. Another silent zone, one that I wouldn't soon forget. As soon as we crossed the front gate of the elementary school, I could feel the silence swallow me whole. I could suddenly feel each breath I took inside my chest. Every step sent shocks up the length of my spine. Harper took point, while Des stayed in the rear. A faint murmur crackled in my ear, prompting me to turn up the volume. Lieutenant Rennick's voice still came out like a whisper. "Do you read me?" "Loud and clear," Des replied. Even though he was 10 feet behind me, I only heard his voice through the communicator. "Clear the east wing first. Motion was flagged there. Watch each other's backs." We approached the front door. Harper took the left while I took the right. Des kicked it open, shouting something only he could hear. Harper rolled her eyes as we followed him in. What met our eyes brought us back to reality. It made sense why the sensor drones hadn't picked up motion here. The thing in front of us wasn't moving. Not really. A few of the arms and legs twitched occasionally. Small ones. They bent at unnatural angles, and dark liquid was seeping out at various places. It looked like a whole classroom was rolled up into one writhing mass of limbs. Des threw up. I didn't blame him. We've seen a lot of messed up creatures inside the zones, but nothing like this. Strangely, there was no smell. You'd think such a disgusting mass of flesh would smell worse than death, but entities at lower levels were typically odorless. Harper was quick to snap a few shots, the flash of her camera giving us a clearer look at this thing with every burst of white light. I wish it didn't. "Do we shoot it?" came the faint crackle of the radio. Des was looking at me. No jokes, no grin, just tension wound tight around his shoulders. I fired twice into the thing. The twitching stopped. "I've got weapon discharge." "What are you firing at, Sam?" Rennick's voice buzzed in. All unit weapons were synced to our haptic bands. He'd have felt the same 2 pulses the rest of us did. "There was an entity at the front, immobile. We put it down. Moving on." The 3 of us pushed past the now limp form towards the main hall. Despite it being early noon, the school was dark and uninviting. Not dim or shadowed, just dark. The row of shut doors and rusty lockers led to a staircase going up. We moved slowly, checking each door, the pulse of my heart thumping louder in my chest with each step closer. I don't know why, but this building made my skin crawl. We barely made it up the stairs before running into another one. We heard it before we saw it. "Hey, hey, hey." It kept repeating the word over and over. It shouldn't have been able to pierce the silence, but it did. The toneless, mechanical voice reached toward us, straight through our cancellers. Harper motioned for us to hold at the base of the stairs with a shaky hand. Its shadow crept across the landing despite the darkness of the stairway. It was long and thin, a small hand protruding from what appeared to be its torso. It slowly descended until the first of its dragging arms came into view. Before it turned the corner, Harper moved. My wrist buzzed as the muzzle flashed. 4 shots, quick and clean. The thing tilted forward and stumbled down the stairs, landing at our feet in a crumpled mess. Harper leaned against the wall, catching her breath. "Another one down," she said into the comms. The thing was shaped like a person. Almost. Its limbs were mismatched, one belonging to a child and the other reaching the floor. A second face was flat where its chest should be. The lips still mouthing the word, "hey," even though the rest of the body had gone still. Its torso continued to convulse in rhythmic spasms, like it was trying to keep up a habit it never fully understood. Des and I nodded and both added another round. We decided to climb to the top floor and recover the sensor drone, then work our way down. The building groaned as we ascended, a feeling of unwelcomeness threatening to envelop us. Our progress went unhindered as we cautiously moved forward, continuing down the east side of the school. A blinking red light coming from an open classroom door told us where the drone had malfunctioned. Harper entered first. She mouthed something into her earpiece, but nothing came out. She looked at me, confused. I checked my communicator, volume still maxed, and signaled to hold. Something was off. I tried to call for Rennick, but when I spoke, I could only feel the vibrations of my throat. No sound. Des turned to look back down the corridor while Harper scanned the room. I sent out a target secure signal, 2 short and 1 long, hoping the message reached the lieutenant on the other side of the zone. Harper shook her head. Nothing in this room except for us and the drone. I knelt by it and began to pick it up when my band began to buzz again. It was Morse code. Only 2 letters. U-P. Des spun around and pointed towards the window in quiet horror. I looked just in time to see a shape, long, dark, and writhing, on the other side of the glass. Then it crashed through. Soundless shards scattered across the room like ice across tile. Des surged forward, tackling Harper as the creature flew past them. I stayed low as it passed over me, getting a good look at its patchwork skin and short, dangling arms. A flyer. It's a goddamn flyer. After the beast passed over me, I sprang up and fired until I was out. They sank into its rough skin, inky liquid spilling from the small holes. It turned. The walls groaned as its mass shifted. Cracks split through the plaster while desks and chairs skittered across the floor. Its front limbs, two elongated arms that sprouted from the top of its head, reached out to grab us, like it was trying to shovel us into its horribly stretched and gaping maw. The smell that emitted from its mouth was almost unbearable, an awful mix of week old trash and sewage. Des stood up tall, shooting bullet after bullet into its open jaw. It did nothing to stop the flyer as it swallowed Des in a single bite. Just like that, my partner was gone. I screamed in echoless frustration and fumbled for my second clip. This thing shouldn't be here. Harper stood, hands bloody, and dragged me towards the door we came in. I picked up the pace, and we bolted out back towards the stairwell. The crashing and groaning of the room behind us sending tremors across the third-floor hallway. A blinking red light came from my left. I noticed Harper had picked up the drone during our escape. "Spawn! Damn it, Sam! If you don't respond, I'm coming in myself." The distant voice of Lieutenant Rennick finally filled my ears. The tightness in my chest eased for a moment. "Rennick, it's Sam. There's a goddamn flyer here. Des—" I swallowed. "He didn't make it." "Get out now. You can And then it faded. I turned to see the flyer burst through the classroom door and spill out into the hallway. It was gaining on us fast. Harper and I split, each diving through opposite doors as the flyer surged forward, tearing through the space we'd been moments before. It veered right, towards Harper, crushing walls and flooring as it went. The ground beneath me shuddered for a moment, before giving way as I tumbled into the darkness below. When I opened my eyes, there was rubble all around. By some minor miracle, I'd survived the fall. I felt around to make sure everything was intact, but something was missing. My gun. Panicked, I looked around. That's when I saw Harper. She was pinned, both legs crushed under a collapsed section of floor. She wordlessly struggled to free herself, desperately trying to push the debris off of her. Her sidearm was gone, the sensor drone still flashing red under a pile of rubble. I started to move toward her when I felt my ankle buckle. It throbbed in pain as I tried to walk. Twisted, maybe broken. I couldn't walk. I looked for something to brace against when Harper began to thrash. I saw why. Something small, 3 feet tall at most. It had a head too big for its twisted body, its face blank where features should be. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Its arms were thin and skeletal, yet stretched twice as long as its edges. Every inch towards Harper looked like a struggle, but it kept moving. I desperately tried to crawl to her, but my legs wouldn't respond. Harper began trying to grab around, looking for her gun or a rock. It was too late. It grabbed Harper by the throat with impossible strength. It started to squeeze. I watched in horror as the light slowly left her eyes, struggling with a muted scream upon her face. I think she was mouthing, "Help." I couldn't help her. I couldn't save her. I turned and began crawling. We must have fallen all the way to the bottom. I could see the tangle of fused limbs still lying in the front hall. I had to get away from that thing and pray to God that the flyer wouldn't come back. I was dragging myself through the puddle of dark liquid when my ankle screamed in pain. The thing had grabbed me. I kicked wildly with my good leg, its bulbous head recoiling with each strike. I finally shoved hard enough that my boot came off. The thing crushed it between its spindly fingers. I tried to crawl again, slipping on the blood pooled around the twisted mass of limbs. It mounted me. I felt its clammy hand begin to tighten around my neck. Its head exploded. Its light frame fell on top of me, twitching once. I turned my head. Rennick stood in the doorway, his rifle smoking, eyes locked on mine. "Sam," I saw him mouth. I held out my hand, and he grabbed it. He started to drag me out from underneath the creature, and my world faded to black. I awoke on a white cot. The sounds of mechanical beeps and hurried footsteps set my beating heart at ease. My right leg was heavy and suspended. I was alive. I gave Rennick my report. No further sightings of the flyer that killed my team. No more entities. Just me, alive and aching, back from somewhere I wasn't supposed to leave. Turns out I was the first to return from an anomalous zone. I told Rennick that the silence was heavier around the flyer than the rest of the zone. He said I'd be off my feet for a while and shouldn't worry about DSAT. Take some time off. Maybe even retire. But I couldn't. First, the silence took my family. Now it took my team. For anyone thinking of fighting against the zones, stay alert. Stay ready. The world may be trying to silence us, but our cry must be that much louder. Wow. I mean, that was an adventure. I really enjoyed reading the action sequence, all of the action. And of course, voice acting is always fun too. But that was very entertaining, and I'm hooked and I need more, so I'm going to try and cover the rest of the series on my channel, not consecutively, because I want to break things up, because I know people need variation, and I totally understand that. But I will work on doing the rest of the series, because I think it's a really, really good start to what could be an awesome series. So I'll keep going with that. Let me know what you think of this story in the comments. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. And links to the story will be in the description below. Thank you for coming by, and remember, it's only a story. See you later.